Hey Gab Gang. So it's been a little while since I've been on this channel, but I'm back, and today I'm going to be talking about something I wanted to discuss on here for a while. But before we get into that, I want to explain that I'm kind of starting something a little different on this channel. And when I'm going to be doing these new videos, keep in mind that I am reading off of a script, so please don't judge me. It's scripted because I want it to be factual, not because I'm being fake, that's all. Thanks. I want to talk more about creepy stuff, horror stories, urban legends, conspiracies, aliens, all the kinds of things that have been fascinating me for years. Lately I've been super into watching videos about that kind of thing, and it kind of struck me as weird that it's not even what I focus on this channel, despite it being one of my biggest interests. But right now, that's going to change, because today we're going to be doing one of my favorite fascinations of all time, the Titanic, or more specifically, conspiracy theories about why and how it sank.
Iceberg, right ahead! Thank you. Iceberg, right ahead! Understand!
As I'm sure most of you know, the Titanic was one of the biggest ships of its time, with 10 decks and 3 720-ton engines, and could carry up to 2,453 passengers, as well as the captain and 900 crew members. It had a gymnasium, a Ritz-style restaurant, cafes, numerous lounges, and even a swimming pool. But in the early morning on April 15, 1912, Titanic struck an iceberg and sank, killing over 1,500 people and becoming one of the most deadly marine disasters during peacetime in history. So, I don't know if this is morbid curiosity, but the Titanic has literally fascinated me for years. I remember having a book when I was like 7 years old and just looking through the pages, flipping over and over and over again for literally hours on end. Like, it's so interesting to me, and a lot of it doesn't make sense, and it's just that there's so much mystery surrounding it, and the fact that the wreck of it is so far below the ocean, it just blows my mind. So I hadn't actually heard a lot about conspiracy theories that have to do with the Titanic. I was just fascinated by the whole event. But when I started getting into these videos, I saw so many different theories on it. Now, the first theory I'm going to be talking about is one that I know Shane Dawson talked about, and one of my favorite YouTubers, Kendall Ray, talked about, and that is that the Titanic didn't really sink, but an identical ship, the Olympic, did. Okay, let's start by talking about the boats themselves. The RMS Titanic was one of 3 Olympic-class ocean liners made by White Star Line, along with the RMS Olympic and the HMS H. Britannic. The Olympic was made first. It was at first only referred to as number 400, because it was the 400th hull made by Harland and Wolff, the designers of the ships. Titanic was made after and was a revised version of the Olympic and was number 401. So these ships were virtually identical. So the theory is that the Olympic was a badly damaged ship because it had collided with another ship, the HMS Hawk, but the Titanic was brand new, and the White Star Line was seriously in debt from the collision. The idea was that they would switch the boats and tell everyone it was the Titanic because they looked so similar, and purposely sink it to collect the insurance money and have a brand new ship with no damage at all that they could just use and keep on making money. So they knew it was going to sink all along. Yeah, kinda dark. One thing I read about this theory was that the insurance on the Titanic was increased only 5 days before it set sail. It went from 5 million to 12.5 million, which is already a huge number, but back then was even more. However, as I kept reading, apparently there is no proof that the insurance was raised this much, and some sources even say the Titanic was underinsured, mainly because White Star Line insured their own ships. Because obviously if the ship was so unsinkable, insuring it for a lot of money would have been extremely suspicious. Keep in mind that there are a lot of facts that just kind of float around about these theories and honestly aren't necessarily proven. So remember how I said that the Olympic was badly damaged, so it made sense to sink it? Well, the damage on the ship was that 2 of the famous watertight compartments were already ruined. If you don't know, there were several compartments on the Titanic that was a supposed reason the ship was unsinkable. The idea was that if the Titanic was damaged in some way, the compartments would close before the water got in. But when it hit the iceberg, the water got in too many of the compartments instead of just a few, and it would only take a couple of them to sink it. But the idea was that it wouldn't happen and the water wouldn't get in fast enough. But is it realistic that the iceberg scraped against all of those compartments? I don't really know, but I'm just saying the fact that a few were damaged before it even set sail and hastily patched over doesn't seem all that crazy. Some people even say that because they patched over the part on the Olympic that was hit, the paint over it is slightly discolored, and apparently you can see it in this image. Personally, I think it's really hard to tell, especially such an old photograph, but comment down below if you can see something that I can't. I also think if they did paint it, it would just be black, so black paint over black paint wouldn't be that noticeable if it was patched over. Another important fact to note is that there wasn't a lot of publicity for the Titanic sailing, even though it was a brand new ship. Wouldn't they want the whole thing to be full of people to make more money? You'd think so, but it was done really quietly. Moreover, at the time there was a coal shortage, meaning there was a lot of people out of work, but the Titanic had a hard time finding people to work on it. And some people say this is because there was a local rumor about the ship possibly sinking, and it just kind of spread, and just out of superstition, people wouldn't go on the Titanic. And along that line, apparently a lot of first-class passengers canceled their trips at the last minute. Extremely wealthy and famous banker J.P. Morgan, who founded the current 6th largest bank in the world, J.P. Morgan and Company, called off his trip last minute because he said he was sick. But only 2 days later, he was seen in public at a French resort having a great time and in perfect health. Additionally, he is rumored to have removed 2 of his expensive bronze statues from the Titanic, only an hour before it set sail, and also some other wealthy people that he might have known canceled too. So was this because Morgan heard the rumor and told them? It's possible, but the information I found on this was a little bit fuzzy, and some sources say it's an urban legend. But it is a fact that he was not on the Titanic, although he had scheduled a ticket, because he died only a year later in 1913. One final detail to add is that some people say that the lifeboats on the Titanic had the name Olympic written on them, but it can't necessarily be attributed to being the Olympic because Titanic was called an Olympic-class ship, so it might have just been the name of the class. But why would they put the name of the class on the lifeboats and not the name of the ship? And I just found this out, but what's really interesting is that after the ships made it to the Carpathia, which was the rescue ship, the lifeboats that were brought back with them apparently just sort of disappeared. Like, what happened to them is a complete mystery. Some sources say the nameplates were taken off of them, and they were used as lifeboats on the Olympic until it was no longer in service. But wait, didn't we say the Olympic was too badly damaged and couldn't be used as a ship anymore? Or maybe it was the Titanic! Maybe they disappeared because there was a cover-up that they had said Olympic on them. So, all this being said, do I believe in this theory? Well, not really. I think it's definitely something to think about and bring awareness to, but I don't know how realistic it is. But whether it's real or not, it doesn't change the fact that all of those people lost their lives that day. And it's just that if it had been sunk on purpose, it would make it a whole lot more messed up. Okay, since we're getting a little bit dark, I'm just gonna put some pictures here of Leonardo DiCaprio in the Titanic movie, just to make you feel a little bit better. Okay, back to the dark stuff. Hey guys, so my camera cut out like the absolute queen that she is, but thanks to the power of editing and thanks to the power of the fact that I have my script pre-written, I'm just gonna hop right back into it 2 weeks later. And the second and last theory that I want to talk about, which isn't really a theory, it's just sort of a fact that a lot of people don't know and is kind of a creepy thing to know, is that the Titanic didn't sink solely because of an iceberg. It sank because of a fire. So what is mostly considered a fact was that there was a fire in the ship's hull that raged for nearly 3 weeks, likely caused by fuel storage behind the boiler room. There were even black marks along the area where the fire was, which just so happened to be where the iceberg hit. This could also explain why there were black marks on that picture of what was supposedly the Titanic. It might not have been the paint, it might have been the fire. So it's possible that the fire weakened the ship, so it was a lot easier for the iceberg to damage it. Now, a lot of experts agree that this is extremely likely. It's not crazy at all that a fire could have been behind all of this. The crew of the Titanic worked really hard to put it out but couldn't. And many considered it a time bomb, and that's why the ship was traveling so fast in the first place. They wanted to get to New York before the fire literally made the ship explode. Yeah, so if the Titanic didn't sink, it would have exploded. I'm not kidding. If you want to learn more about this theory, it's covered in a documentary called Titanic: The New Evidence, which I believe is available to watch on YouTube. Alright guys, that is all for today. I'm so excited to hear what you guys think about these theories. Do you think they're real or too far-fetched to believe? Let me know down in the comments below, and of course give this video a thumbs up if you want me to do more of these kinds of videos. And if you have any topics or conspiracies you want me to cover, make sure to tell me that too, because I know you guys love watching these as much as I love making them. Alright guys, until next time, bye. extremely wealthy and famous baker,